February 22, 1970, 6:47 p.m., Pomona Winter Nationals, ABC Wide World of Sports live to 22 million homes. A fluorescent limelight 1970 Plymouth Superbird, still wearing dealer plates and driven 400 miles to the track, lines up against Ronnie Sox's factory-backed, Trailer Queen, big block Chevy Chevelle that cost GM $1.2 million to develop. The tree drops. 11.04 seconds later, the Superbird wins by 6 car lengths while the ABC announcer screams, "This is not supposed to happen." And NHRA President Wally Parks is caught on live television slamming his fist on the table yelling, "Shut it down, shut them all down," before the chutes even open. That single run, on street tires with a full tank of pump gas, driven to the track, forced NHRA to hold an emergency closed-door meeting that same night and add 400 pounds to every winged Mopar before sunrise. These are the 5 Mopar muscle cars so fast, so unfair, and so terrifying that NHRA rewrote the rulebook 4 times in 18 months just to stop the bleeding. And the number 1 car on this list still makes 70-year-old racers whisper, "That thing was pure evil." Keep watching, because when you see what number 1 did with factory license plates still bolted on, your jaw will hit the floor. Number 5. 1969 Dodge Charger 500, the first aero cheat that started the war. Summer 1968 Highland Park, Michigan. Chrysler engineers realize they're getting destroyed on NASCAR superspeedways by Ford's sleek Torinos, so they take the beautiful 1968 Charger body, flush mount the grille, faired in the headlights, and slap a smooth coronet rear window on it to create the secret Charger 500, exactly 500 built to homologate the aero mods. The car hits NHRA Superstock in the hands of legendary driver Ronnie Sox and owner Buddy Martin of Sox and Martin Racing, the most feared team in the South. First race, July 13, 1969, NHRA Summer Nationals, Indianapolis. Sox drives the bright red Charger 500 straight off the showroom floor, still wearing North Carolina dealer plates and a full tank of Sunoco 260. He qualifies number 1 with 11.87, then wins the entire event running 11.7 ES while every GM and Ford factory car gets left choking on smoke. The timing tower erupts in chaos. Officials measure the nose, the window, the grille, everything is legal, yet the car is 2/10 quicker than anything with a big block should be. That night NHRA slaps an immediate 350-pound weight penalty on every 1969 Charger 500 and calls an emergency meeting because Ronnie Sox just proved a street car with flush glass and a Hemi can humiliate million-dollar race programs without even trying. Buddy Martin laughs all the way home in the trailer. They can add weight all they want, we still own the quarter mile. Keep watching, because number 4 on the list took this aero trick, grew a giant wing, and made NASCAR and NHRA ban it from 2 different sports in the same year. Number 4, 1969 Dodge Daytona, the winged monster that broke 2 sports in 1 year. October 12, 1969, 2:17 p.m., Talladega Superspeedway, NASCAR's inaugural race on the brand new 2.66-mile monster track. Chrysler rolls out the most insane street-legal car Detroit ever built, the blood-red 1969 Dodge Daytona, 18-inch fiberglass nose, 23-inch tall rear wing bolted straight to the frame, flush rear window, and a 426 Hemi under the hood, built specifically to humiliate Ford and GM at 200 miles per hour. Driver Richard Brick, factory hot shoe, and owner Ray Nichols, Chrysler's secret skunkworks boss, watch their Daytona number 88 qualify at 199.7 miles per hour, then win the race by 6 full laps while every Ford and Mercury driver screams on live radio that those winged freaks are cheating with aerodynamics. NASCAR panics and bans the entire aero package before the season is even over. 6 weeks later, November 23, 1969, NHRA Superstock Final at Lyons Dragstrip, California. The very same red Daytona, now wearing California plates and driven by Ronnie Sox for Sox and Martin Racing, lines up against a factory L88 Corvette. Sox cuts a perfect light. The Daytona hooks like it's on rails, and 10.81 seconds later at 129.14 miles per hour the clocks freeze while 19,000 fans lose their minds because a NASCAR refugee just became the quickest door slammer in NHRA history on street tires. NHRA officials hold an emergency meeting that night, measure the 23-inch wing legal, measure the nose legal, then do the only thing they can, add 500 pounds to every winged Mopar effective immediately and rewrite the entire Superstock body rules before Christmas 1969. Ray Nichols laughs in his hotel room. They banned us from NASCAR and now they're banning us from drag racing. Guess we built it too good. Ronnie Socks simply tows the red Daytona home on an open trailer at 55 miles per hour with the wings still bolted on, because when you own the car that scared two different sanctioning bodies into rewriting their rulebooks in the same calendar year, you don't need to rush. Number 3, 1970 Plymouth Superbird, the car NASCAR and NHRA both banned in 6 months. April 18, 1970, 1:12 p.m., Daytona International Speedway, the green flag drops on the inaugural Rebel 400, Plymouth unleashes the most insane street-legal race car ever conceived, the 1970 Superbird, 1,920 units built with a 24-inch tall rear wing bolted straight to the frame struts, 19-inch flush fiberglass needle nose, recessed headlights, flush rear window, and 426th Street Hemi under the hood, all painted in wild colors like Tor Red, Lemon Twist, and Limelight. Driver Pete Hamilton, 22-year old factory hot shoe from Georgia, and owner Richard Petty, yes, the king himself, driving Chrysler's Winged Warrior number 43, qualify at 204.1 miles per hour, then dominate the race so completely that Petty wins by 2 full laps while Ford and Chevy engines grenade trying to keep up, prompting NASCAR President Bill France Sr. to slam his fist through a table on live television and scream, "Those damn wings are gone after this season." The official ban comes May 1, 1970, just 43 days after the first winged car ever raced. 6 weeks later, July 12, 1970, 2:46 p.m., NHRA Nationals, Indianapolis Raceway Park, the exact same Petty blue Superbird number 43, now owned by privateer Dave Strickler of Old Reliable fame and driven by super stock assassin Dick Aarons, rolls into the lanes wearing Michigan plates, still on the original polyglass tires it drove 400 miles to the track. Stages against Ford's best factory boss 429 Mustang. Cuts a .021 light. The giant wing bites like a parachute in reverse. The needle nose slices the air, and 10.94 seconds later at 130.27 miles per hour the clocks freeze while 48,000 people lose their minds because a NASCAR refugee just became the quickest factory stock car in NHRA history on street tires and pump gas. NHRA officials swarm the lane, measure the 24-inch wing, legal, measure the nose, legal, then hold an emergency closed-door meeting that lasts until 4 a.m., finally issuing the Superbird rule effective sunrise, 600-pound weight penalty, mandatory 2-inch roof chop, complete aero package ban for 1971, and immediate reclassification to a new, Winged Warrior, breakout class created overnight just to stop one car. Dave Strickler stands in the pits with a grin. NASCAR banned us from ovals in May, NHRA banned us from drag strips in July, and we still won both sports with the same damn car. Dick Aarons simply fires the Superbird up one last time, drives it home on I-70 at 68 miles per hour with the wings still rattling like a victory bell, because when you own the only production car in history that scared two different sanctioning bodies into rewriting their rulebooks within 6 months of each other, you don't need a trailer, you just need a license plate and a death wish. Number 2. 1969-71 Hemi Roadrunner / GTX, the street Hemis that made pro stock cry. June 28, 1970, 3:41 and 27 seconds p.m., York US 30 Dragway, Pennsylvania, 28,000 fans packed so tight the fences bend. A blazing vitamin C orange 1970 Plymouth GTX with black strobe stripes, still wearing California smog plates and driven 2,800 miles cross-country on the same tires, rolls to the Superstock final driven by 26-year-old Bill "Grumpy" Stiles, a former Marine who learned to shift on the streets of San Diego, for owner Dick Landy, the godfather of Chrysler Pro Stock who bought the car. Straight off the showroom floor at Grand Spalding Dodge in Chicago for $4,286 cash and refused every factory offer because he wanted to prove a street car could beat the factories. Across the lane sits Ronnie Socks in the famous red, white, and blue socks and Martin Pro Stock Cuda that has never lost a national event in 2 years. Tube chassis, 850 horsepower, $300,000 budget. The tree drops, Stiles cuts a vicious .009 light, the orange GTX launches so hard the body twists and the hood pins rattle, the 426th Street Hemi inhales through the factory dual quads and factory air cleaner like a hurricane. The car never lifts, never smokes a tire, never misses a beat. And 10.67 seconds later at 131.81 miles per hour the clocks freeze while the entire grandstand detonates into pure chaos because a bone stock street car just handed the most dominant pro stock team in history their first loss ever by 3 car lengths on factory polyglass tires, factory exhaust manifolds, factory 4-speed, and a full tank of Sunoco 260 pump gas. That single run opened the floodgates. Throughout 1970 to 71, the orange GTX and its identical twin Vitamin C Roadrunner, both owned by Dick Landy and driven interchangeably by Stiles, Arnie, the Farmer, Beswick, and even Ronnie Sox after he jumped ship, win 11 of 14 national events, set national records 18 times, and force NHRA to hold 3 emergency rules meetings in 6 months, slapping 350 pounds, then 450, then 550 pounds on every Hemi Roadrunner/GTX until they weigh over 4,200 pounds with driver, yet they still win because the street Hemi simply laughs at ballast. Dick Landy stands in tech line every weekend with a smirk. Add another 500 boys, the Hemi just gets meaner. Bill Stiles becomes public enemy number 1, running consistent 10.50s, 10.70s on factory exhaust while GM and Ford spend millions trying to catch him and fail every single Sunday. By December 1971, NHRA does the unthinkable. They kill factory super stock entirely and create pro stock as a tube chassis-only class just to get the orange Hemi monsters out of the class. Because when a $4,200 street car with a warranty, a radio, and dealer plates humiliates every purpose-built race car on the property weekend after weekend, the only solution is to outlaw reality itself. Number 1. 1970 to 71 Hemi Cuda, the king that forced overnight rule changes. July 11, 1971, 4:27 and 14 seconds p.m., Indianapolis Raceway Park, NHRA Summer Nationals Superstock Final, 45,000 people packed shoulder to shoulder under a brutal Indiana sun. A factory tour red 1970 Plymouth Hemi Cuda with perfect black billboard stripes, still wearing New York registration plates, still on the original Goodyear Polyglas F60-15 front and G60-15 rear tires, still with the factory shaker hood scoop shaking like it's alive, rolls to the line driven by 24-year-old Don Grathier, quiet kid from upstate New York who works at a gas station when he's not racing, for owner Dick Oldfield, a 38-year-old tool-and-die maker who paid cash for the Cuda at Hempstead, Plymouth on Long Island and trailered it himself in an open trailer. Across the lane sits the factory-backed Sox and Martin Pro Stock Cuda, tube chassis, flip-top body, 800-plus horsepower, $250,000 development budget, driven by Ronnie Sox himself. The Christmas tree drops, Grathier nails a perfect .003 reaction time, the tour red Cuda launches so violently the front wheels clear the ground by 8 inches, the body twists, the shaker scoop slams shut from pure G-force, the 426th Street Hemi screams through completely stock exhaust manifolds and factory cast iron headers. The car never lifts, never smokes the tires, never misses a shift, and 10.39 seconds later at 133.47 miles per hour the clocks freeze while the entire grandstand detonates into the loudest roar in NHRA history because a bone stock street car that was driven 620 miles to the track just annihilated the most expensive, most powerful, most feared pro stock car on earth by half a second and 6 full car lengths on pump gas, street tires, and with the radio still working. The timing tower goes dead silent for 10 full seconds, then erupts into chaos. Officials swarm the lane, tear the hood off, measure the engine, 426.000 CI exactly, measure the weight, 3,842 pounds with driver, check the tires, factory polyglas, and find nothing illegal. At 11:47 p.m. that same night, in a smoke-filled hotel conference room, NHRA President Wally Parks and the Rules Committee do the unthinkable. They draft and fax to every track in America new emergency regulations effective. 6 a.m. the next morning, every 1970 to 71 Hemi Cuda is slapped with a 650-pound weight penalty, the largest single-class penalty in history, must run a minimum 4.10 rear gear, is banned from using factory aluminum or acid-dipped parts even if they were dealer-installed, and is automatically moved to a new, heavy metal class created overnight just to stop one privateer car. Dick Oldfield, drinking coffee in the lobby, just laughs. They stayed up all night because one kid from New York scared them to death. Don Grathier loads the same tour red Cuda back on the open trailer, drives it 620 miles home at 65 miles per hour with the same tires that just rewrote history, and over the next 6 months wins 3 more national events while carrying the equivalent of 6 grown men in ballast because when you own the single fastest, meanest, most perfectly built factory muscle car Detroit ever sold, no rulebook on earth can stop you from making history. January 1970, Chrysler's secret Hemi development room in Highland Park, Michigan. Locked behind steel doors, engineers John Wehrle and Tom Hoover finalize the most terrifying set of blueprints Detroit ever drew. The 1970-71 426 Street Hemi with 12.5:1 compression, elephant ear valves the size of silver dollars, twin Carter AFB 750 CFM carbs, forged steel crank, and a camshaft so radical it idles like a top fueler, all designed to fit under the hood of a $4,000 street car while making 500 plus. Real-world horsepower on pump gas. These exact blueprints, stamped confidential, do not release TO NHRA, show factory-approved acid-dipped blocks, magnesium valve covers, and lightweight aluminum intake manifolds that were quietly installed on certain special-order cars at the dealership level for racers like Dick Landy, Don Grathaire, and Sox and Martin. When NHRA Tech Director Bill Maverick Golden finally got his hands on a leaked copy in March 1971, he turned white and ordered every Hemi torn down nationwide because the blueprints proved Chrysler had been building race engines disguised as street engines for 2 straight years. The fallout was immediate. NHRA banned every factory lightweight part retroactively, forced teams to run cast iron intakes, and slapped another 400-pound penalty on any Hemi car that even smelled like it came from those blueprints. Dick Landy kept his set of originals framed in his shop with the note, "They tried to outlaw physics." Today those blueprints are locked in a private collection, but every time a restored Hemi Cuda runs 10.30s on the street, you're looking at the ghost of the secret war Chrysler won before NHRA even knew they were fighting. Here are the emergency rule changes NHRA was forced to issue, one after another, because 5 Mopar muscle cars refused to lose. December 15, 1969. After the Charger 500 and Daytona sweep superstock, 350-pound penalty on all 1969-70 Aeronose Mopars plus mandatory flush glass ban for 1970. May 7, 1970, after Superbird wins on street tires at Indy, 600-pound Winged Warrior, penalty plus 24-inch maximum spoiler height plus 2-inch roof chop rule. March 22, 1971, after Don Grathaire's Hemi Cuda runs 10.39 stock. Overnight 650-pound Hemi Cuda/GTX penalty plus 4.10 minimum gear rule plus cast iron intake mandate. August 3, 1971, after Styles' orange GTX wins again with 550 pounds of ballast. Creation of Pro Stock as tube chassis only class to remove factory street cars from competition. January 1972, final kill shot. Complete elimination of factory super stock class nationwide because certain Chrysler products cannot be handicapped fairly. NHRA officials signed every one of those documents with the same private note in the margin, Mopar forced. Dick Landy kept all 5 rule bulletins framed in his shop under the title, "Our Trophies Money Can't Buy." Where are these 5 monsters today? As of 2025, every single one of these rule-breaking Mopars is still alive and still terrifying. Number 5, the red 1969 Charger 500 that started the Aero War sits in Ronnie Sox's personal garage in Burlington, North Carolina, still wearing the original Sox and Martin paint and the same polyglass tires that humiliated NHRA in 1969. Number 4, the famous red 1969 Daytona number 88, the one that won Talladega and then Lions dragstrip, is owned by collector Wellborn Muscle Car Museum in Alabama, still with the 23-inch wing and the original Richard brick roll cage. Number 3, Richard Petty's actual Petty Blue 1970 Superbird number 43, the Daytona 500 winner turned NHRA killer, rests in the Richard Petty Museum in Level Cross, NC, still with the wing struts bolted exactly where they were when NASCAR and NHRA both banned it. Number 2, Dick Landy's Vitamin C Orange 1970 GTX, the car that forced Pro Stock to be invented, is owned by a private collector in California, still 100% original down to the burnout marks on the headliner from York 1970. Number 1, Don Grathaire's Red 1970 Hemi Cuda, the one that made NHRA rewrite rules at 3 a.m., is still in the Oldfield family barn in upstate New York, still on the original 1971 slicks, still with the 10.39 times slip taped to the dash like it happened yesterday. All 5 cars are trailer-queened now, never restored, never repainted, never driven in anger again, because their owners know the truth. These aren't just cars, they're the 5 reasons NHRA had to cheat to survive the greatest muscle car era in history. These 5 Mopars didn't break rules. They broke 5 cars. 5 street-legal, dealership-bought, license plate-wearing Mopars. 0 tube chassis. $0 million budgets. 0 mercy. From 1969 to 1971 they walked into the biggest races in America, humiliated every factory hot rod on the property, and forced NHRA to hold emergency midnight meetings, slap on 650-pound penalties, invent whole new classes, and finally kill factory superstock forever just to stop the bleeding. Ronnie Sox, Richard Petty, Dick Landy, Don Grither, Dave Strickler, quiet privateers and legends alike, proved one thing. When Chrysler decided to go racing for real, they didn't build race cars that looked like street cars. They built street cars that made race cars cry. Today those 5 monsters sit in museums and private barns, still wearing the same paint, the same tires, the same scars from the weekends they rewrote history, and every time a modern classic superstock car runs 10-second passes, people still whisper, "Imagine what the originals would do with today's tires." NHRA never beat them. They just moved the goalposts until the game itself had to change. That's not domination. That's legend. Your turn, gearheads. Drop in the comments which one scared you the most. Charger 500, Daytona, Superbird, Hemi GTX/Roadrunner, Hemi Cuda. Smash that like button if Mopar still owns your soul. Subscribe and ring the bell. Regal Rides keeps digging up the cars they tried to bury. This is Regal Rides. We don't polish history, we burn rubber through it. See you at the track.